This week on the WriterCon podcast.
I think what helped me the most was having other people read and critique my work.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Your hosts are William Bernhardt, best-selling novelist and author of the Red Sneaker books on writing, and Lara Bernhardt, award-winning author of the Wantland Files book series.
Thank you, Jesse Ulrich. And hey there, writers. Thanks for joining us. As we record this, we're just about 2 months away from the WriterCon retreat, which is at the Canebrake Luxury Resort near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and getting pretty excited about it. Lara, have you started packing your bag yet?
Definitely have my hiking boots out, so probably won't be. Yeah, I put away all the dresses from the cruise. I don't think we're going to need those. I think I'm going to be getting out my hiking boots. Definitely need a few swimsuits. I know there's a pool. Hoping there's a hot tub.
Yeah.
And then
Fishing, golf,
spa. I don't need
yoga
really any clothes for the spa, but I need to find out how many times I get to go to the spa.
I feel you should probably wear some clothes to the spa. That's just me, but
something.
Yeah,
I'll crack out on my writing themed, probably t-shirts. It's gonna be July. It'll be warm. I can go t-shirts, I think. But that'll be a lot of fun because we are going to be so secluded in this beautiful place, away from everything, out where we can walk through the woods or just get inspired, let our minds wander, away from all the distractions. I feel like the other places, the other retreats have been fantastic, but we've had other things that we've wanted to do nearby.
Right. And there'll also be some writing stuff we should probably
right.
Yoga
then I'll be teaching, yes, and maybe I'll even get some writing done. That would be good.
Small group work where you can get feedback on your manuscript, which can be invaluable, right?
Well, that is the most exciting part, is the opportunity to connect with more fabulous people, get to work with them on their writing. That is what it's all about. I love it.
All right. Our interview today is with Becca Fox, who is the author of the Andromeda Chronicles and the Dare duology. And she's written fantasy, science fiction, romance, but her new book, Asta and the Barbarians, it's part of her series called Chosen by the Masters. And it's kind of a Gaslamp romantasy novel. People are chosen by gods and goddesses to perform certain tasks that will better the world around them. Kind of like the WriterCon retreat, come to think of it. I'm not sure she would approve of that endorsement, but I'm going to make it anyway. We will talk to Becca, who's going to be at the WriterCon conference this fall. We're going to talk to her about all this and much more. But first, the news. All right, our first news story. Prepare yourself for this because some people are calling it an act of betrayal. The last novel of Gabriel Garcia Marquez will be published, and some people are really mad about it. Many of you will recognize Marquez's name because he was at the forefront of what came to be called the magic realism movement, which started, of course, south of the border. His most famous novel, 100 Years of Solitude, is, in my opinion anyway, one of the 5 or 10 great novels of the 20th century. And, of course, he won the Nobel Prize, which is not too bad. But he passed a few years ago, and this Colombian laureate's children have now published his last work, which is called Until August. And they published it despite his stated wish that it should be destroyed. It was written when, according to some, the author had dementia. It's coming, as I said, a decade after its death on what would have been his 97th birthday. But it's been described by his sons, and here I'm quoting them, the fruits of one last effort to carry on, creating all odds. and tells the story of a woman who makes a yearly pilgrimage to her mother's grave on a Caribbean island. And this trip becomes dominated by a series of chance sexual encounters. Anyway, like I said, in the face of increasing memory loss, Marquez, who was known as Gabo to his friends, lost confidence in the work and asked for it to be destroyed, but it wasn't. Until now, the manuscript has been available to scholars at Marquez's archive at the Harry Ransom Center in Texas, but now his sons have made the decision to publish it, judging first that it's far better than their father believed. And so this is where that quote comes from. They wrote, "In an act of betrayal, we decided to put his readers' pleasure ahead of all other considerations. If they're delighted, it's possible Gabo might forgive us. In that we trust," end quote. Jesse, you buying this, or is this a shameless cash grab by money-grubbing offspring? What do you think?
Well, first of all, if you are an author and you write something, you're like, just, destroy this, destroy it. Like, if you're really worried about it, get rid of it.
Now, wait a minute. Emily Dickinson left instructions for her sister Lavinia to destroy hundreds of poems that were in a box. We probably wouldn't even know who she was today if Lavinia had done it. From
what I've learned from my time editing this podcast and meeting other authors, authors seem to be the worst judges of their own work.
Very true.
And so if it's true that this book is good, I don't view this as an act of betrayal. I do understand like authors' desires, like they write something, they're like, nope, this is not, I'm not at my best. Like, let this be. On the other hand, like he left it around. And so
it's true. He could have destroyed it himself.
He could have destroyed it himself. Yeah. So I it's tricky because again, my view is if you're an artist, once you have finished your piece of art, it no longer, philosophically no longer belongs to you. Right. And so in situations like this, I'm always like, well, let me take a look. Like, let's read it first. If it is gobbledygook, then yeah, they shouldn't have done it. Right. But if it's good, then share it with the world.
Okay, Laura, you're a writer, so I want you to weigh in on this. Should we respect the wishes of the author, or do the rights of readers and scholars have more weight?
Not unlike what Jesse was saying, and I think you know this better than anyone else. I mean, I have down days where I am convinced that I can't write anymore, or maybe never could write to begin with, and feel like trashing whatever I'm working on. And
right.
My current work in progress is out with preliminary readers right now. And I'm at that point where I have no confidence right now. It's a struggle. Some artists really struggle with that. Was that a reflection of, if he was starting to suffer from some early dementia that could have influenced how he was viewing his own work? I like to think that his children see the merit of it and are trying to share something they see value in with the rest of the world. I like to think that. And I like to think that my loved ones would make the right decision if I left something behind. Like Jesse said, he chose not to destroy it.
Right.
Himself, or couldn't destroy it himself. But gosh, I don't know. That's a tough one. If someone says just throw it away, I think.
Let me just tell you now in advance, there are some things I've written that I've chosen not to publish. But if I'm gone and the kids can make some money off it, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now I don't have to deliberate and stress. I know how you feel about it. Likewise, if I leave something behind and people see value and merit in it, I'm good with that.
Right. Okay, news story number 2. This is about an AI-powered publisher who has raised millions in funding. This company is an Israeli startup. It's called Spines. They've got a website, and they have raised $6.5 million to, and these are their words, disrupt the centuries-old publishing industry. They've created an artificial intelligence-powered publishing platform for authors that basically automates the entire process of getting a book published. Kind of what indie publishers are doing, like with their brains, but now there's an AI service apparently that can do it for you, even to the point of distributing physical copies. According to them, the publishing industry has been at a standstill for decades, not exactly the way I would put it, given, among other things, the boom in the indie publishing industry. But to be fair, I think what they're talking about is tech. They're complaining that, people still do things manually, if you can imagine that. And so it takes the average publisher months to get books ready. And yeah, that might be the average, but we all know that it can be done much quicker if you don't care so much about various things. Anyway, Spines is giving authors the ability to see their books self-published in just 2 weeks and supposedly reducing the costs of publishing by about 30%. They do this by using AI to automate a great deal of the process. They've got algorithms, of course, don't they all? And so it handles editing, proofreading, formatting, even cover design. Although I thought this was interesting, authors have the option of paying extra so they can have a human editor, which to me suggests maybe the AI editor isn't perfect. And each book will be assigned a human production manager to oversee the process. Lara, do you think this is going to disrupt the publishing industry?
I don't, at the risk of sounding like an old lady, I don't like it. This is giving me bad vibes. We already have, I just read an article this morning about all the garbage books flooding Amazon right now. I fear that this is just going to make it even worse. So when you ask, is it going to disrupt? I mean, the publishing industry is already disrupted by a glut of bad actors who are flooding our bookstores with true garbage, just trash books. Absolutely. And there's always a need for a human editor. Sorry.
You'd think. No, we just attended a conference where one of the speakers advocated first dictating your book and then using an AI program to clean it up, to do all the editing and proofreading and punctuation, which to me, I just thought, yeah, and you deserve what you'll get. I mean,
yes,
it's
as
not
an editor,
to be easy, right?
Right. And I see the suggestions and the auto corrections that are wrong. Right. There are so many things that AI just still doesn't get right unless they have improved it massively, but I don't see it. There's a big difference between, my friend Karen went to the store, or my friend Karen, she went to the store. It will always try to put that comma there, and sometimes it is wrong. And that's just one example of things that AI can't seem to differentiate between. It.
Well, I certainly don't understand your style.
Correct.
Okay, Jesse, I'm going to give you a chance to stand up for tech. You've used AI. Can you see this taking off, or more importantly, being actually useful to writers?
So it depends on what it does well and what it doesn't do well. There are still barriers to publishing that if Spines gives you the ability to do one part of it easier than it used to be, then I'm for it. I'm not for like AI doing all the different parts of it. Again, AI is great at analyzing your text. It's not great at fixing it.
Right.
And so if this helps writers like give it a draft and it tells them like, hey, you like reuse this word a lot, or like, hey, like you mentioned this character a lot, but we don't know anything about said character. Those things are useful, right? But I don't think it's going to revolutionize publishing. It's just another tool, especially for, I would say, self-publishing types to like do the things that you need to do to actually release a book.
Right. I would be surprised, but to be fair, I have been surprised once or twice before in this business.
Of course.
So who knows? All right, Jesse, cue up the music. Let's talk to Becca Fox. Becca, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. Okay, traditional first question. If you could offer writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh boy. I think what helped me the most was having other people read and critique my work. I know it's terrifying when you're telling a new author, oh, you got to show this to somebody. They're like, no, my baby, I don't want to, right? I don't want anybody to see, or, oh, what if they hate it? And it is hard sometimes to hear somebody tell you the truth.
Sure.
But I feel like for sure you will grow faster and learn more if you have an open mind and if you're willing to take that hard criticism, because sometimes you're too close to the project and you can't see
Like
the things that
every
need to be
time,
cut. Yeah. For the good of the project. So it's you need to surround yourself with people who love you, yes, but who are not afraid to tell you the truth, that won't lie to you and be like, oh yeah, this is perfect, because that's not helpful. It's really not.
Yeah, right.
So that would be my encouragement.
Might make you feel good for a little while, but it's not going to make the book any better. No, I love that answer, because that's exactly what we do at our retreats every summer. And as we record this, I think we're about 2 months away from the WriterCon retreat. So perfect answer. A+.
Thank you.
Okay, now tell us about Asta and the Barbarians.
So, long story with Asta. So Asta was actually the first book that got a publishing offer from a little vanity press called Turgard Publishing. This was back in 2018, and they only published ebooks at the time. But I was just excited, to get my book out there. So I signed a contract, and we went, and it was rough. It was really rough, but I learned a lot. And the people at Turgard Publishing are great. They were so supportive. They were helpful. They did everything they possibly could. But I think it was just too immature at the time, and it just wasn't. It wasn't the right time. So when the 5-year contract was up, I got the rights back for my book, and then this year I republished it through independently through Amazon, through all the Drafted Digital, all the different outlets, and now it's out there again this time after going through some heavy edits. And I'm so proud of it, though. I always have been. It was my first attempt at a Gaslamp kind of fantasy. So it always have a special place in my heart. Since 2018, it was so funny. I have written these small novellas, which is the rest of the series, chosen by the masters, that introduce other characters in different parts of the same world. So it doesn't follow Asta, but they will all come together later in the book that I'm working on now, which is the last book in the series. At least I hope it'll be the last book. Oh my goodness, it's turning into a monster of a book. I might have to split it in half and do it 1 part, 2 part. But it's been a ride. It's been so cool just to learn more about myself as a writer and about the genre. About the characters. It's been awesome. I've been really enjoying that genre. I might actually stick with that genre. I've jumped around since then, but I really do love Gaslamp. It's got a special place in my heart, like I said. So, yeah.
Where did you get the idea for this? It's a series of books, right? You're chosen by the masters, or at least the world of these books. Where did you get the idea?
So it was a bit of both. So I had recently fallen in love with Kristen Cashor's Graceling series. I don't know if you guys are into that at all, but it does introduce the whole idea of people with different colored eyes having very specific talents that are almost like magical, but not quite. So I use a bit of that in my world, but I also got some inspiration from Rick Riordan's, with the different Olympian gods. And they're kind of like they select champions, to do some things for them in the human world. So it's a bit of both. You have people with special abilities that are granted to them by these gods, but also you have some people that are just kind of, their lives are interrupted because the gods are like, hey, I need you to do something for me. And then of course there's that like, well, I don't want to, but you take them on the journey. And at the end, of course, it's the hero's journey. By the end, they're like, okay, I understand why it had to be me, right? And they bettered the world around them, and it's fun. But of course, I weave some romance in there. I weave some mystery, some action. It was mainly influenced by just the people I was reading at the time and the different worlds that they created, that I just kind of like, okay, let's do a mashup. Let's see if I can make it my own. And oh gosh, it was so much fun.
I love that. I love that.
Hey, I already dropped WriterCon once, but you're actually coming to the conference this fall, right?
So
Labor Day weekend in Oklahoma City. This may be a horrible question because we really haven't discussed it much, but what are you going to be talking about?
That is a great question, and I will get back to you when I figure that out. I've been breaking my head open over it because I want it to tie in with the theme of walking in the souls of these characters, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, geez, what can I talk about that hasn't already been talked about over and over again concerning character creation? But I don't know. I think I might just go up there and just share my experience building characters, because I feel like every writer has a different process for how to build their characters. It's like you said, some of them just they just start writing and the characters just kind of blossom in front of their eyes, and other people kind of like, okay, what's the deepest, darkest secret, right? Or what's their favorite color? We start here and then we work our way around. So I think it'd just be cool to explore the different processes for sure. And get some conversations going about the strengths and the weaknesses and just my experience, and make it fun for the people that are attending.
Excellent.
Great.
So you've written both science fiction and fantasy, is that right?
Yes.
Excellent. And also romance, or is it more like you kind of layer the romance in with the science fiction and the fantasy?
Yes, so it is definitely layered in. It is not the focal point of the story, although it is pretty high up there on my list of priorities. I love romance. I think it's so much fun to write. But yes, so we have Gaslamp. I've written sci-fi. I even wrote like a crime kind of fiction sort of novel that stands alone that has a romance arc as well. And then I did write a duo for high school. It's like a young adult duo. It's just high school students, dealing with emotional stuff and family stuff and falling in love in the process. But yeah, so far, Gaslamp and the sci-fi were, for me anyway, the most fun to write. But there's always going to be some romance in my books.
Would your fantasy then would you call it romantasy? Do you think that fits in that genre, or something else for you?
Yeah, the novellas especially that are a little bit heavier on the romance side, but they do have like several action scenes, or they'll have like a mystery woven throughout or something like that.
Nice. That's a hot one right now. That would be a good one to hop into.
Yeah, that's fun.
Now, your website says that you are passionate about creating realistic couples who struggle and argue, but in the end choose to love each other despite their baggage and flaws. That sounds fantastic to me. And I'm curious why you think that trope has such appeal to readers.
Well, I feel like I don't know, you have two different sides of it, right? You have the audience that are like, give me all the fantasy. I don't want any realism to this. I want him to be perfect, right? The guy that I've always wanted. And I want her to be strong and independent, but of course vulnerable and needs this guy. And then you have the other audience that are just like, oh gosh, this is so unrealistic, and I can't even get into this because there's no way he would ever say that or do that,
Right.
So I kind of tend to be in between as a reader personally, where I do want some realism, where it's like, if this happened in real life, I'd get upset about it too. But on the other hand, you want the fluttery feelings, you want the first love kind of feel to it too. So I do try to include a bit of both, but also it's been impressed upon me that the more you consume something, the more you start to believe it to a certain extent. And I feel that if we just keep pumping out those romances that are not realistic at all, then we're just setting our readers up to fail in real life. If they're looking for that one specific type of relationship, then I mean, how are they supposed to find happiness with anything else? So I guess I'm just trying to promote that side of, so we're going to argue, we're going to get mad at each other sometimes, but there's still hope, that we can make long lasting and meaningful relationships despite all that. So I've been married for 9 years now, so I have a little bit of experience in that. I feel like it's important to pass that on for sure.
No, that's brilliant. I've also heard that movies, shows, books, they set up this kind of unrealistic and unattainable ideal, and that it is starting to affect people when they're dating and trying to find someone that they want to share their life with. I kind of love that. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
You've mentioned character a couple of times now.
Mm-hmm.
And you've said that creating characters that the reader can identify with and champion is very important to you, as I think it is for all of us. But I also think maybe that's easier to say than it is to do. So how do you develop your characters? What's your process like?
Wow. Okay. So I do start with the surrounding circumstances, because I do believe that circumstances do shape a character to a certain extent. But I do also think that surrounding the people that they surround themselves with will influence them as well. I do start with some very basic core values. Okay, what does she believe in? What does she hate? All right, what are some of the things she would never be caught doing? Um, but I do feel like that it's important to stick to certain values, but also to have the character learn along the way, because that's realistic as well. So sometimes there is a big decision that needs to be made that it's like, okay, this is how she would have reacted, but now I have to stop and think, okay, like based on all the experiences that she's had, like would she still make the same decision, or would it be different, and how is that going to affect the story? So it's fun to play with that as well. But lately, especially with the sci-fi trilogy, I actually sat down one of my husband's best friends, and I said, okay, the guy is a lot like you. Like, how would you approach the situation? Like,
That's fantastic.
like,
Personal
and then
interviews.
yes, I'll sit down like, okay, are you willing to answer some weird questions? And he's just like, sure, hit me. So I did, and he was very honest, and I feel like
That's a good friend. Yay.
yes, and his answers shaped the story like in a completely different direction than I would have thought. So it was so cool to be like, okay, you presented me with a new challenge now, because now I have to change the story, because that's not what I thought you were going to say at all. So it was it was really cool. But I do feel like a different. I mean, I feel like maybe guys can identify more with that story now, because it's more realistic in that sense. That a guy would do this. He doesn't sound as much like, I don't know, like a girl. Maybe I'd have to ask a guy. But
I love that you did actual real life research and interviews for your romantic,
Good work.
romantasy. Whatever. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something I loved. On your website, you talk about, and I'm quoting, describing scenery in random and sometimes annoying detail.
Yeah.
That's always the balance, right? Giving enough without slowing down the story. How do you approach that?
Oh, geez. So a lot of read-throughs. If I stop writing in the middle of a chapter and then I start writing again later, I always have to start at the beginning of chapter and read through and be like, oh, that's a lot of definition, a lot of description of the trees and the flowers. And I'm like, I love it, but would the reader really love this? I have to like delete, like just sit there and kind of moderate myself. Yes. Or describing a room in a house that I'm like, okay, I want them to know what color the tapestries were and the rug and I'm sitting here like, but do they really care about this? Like, I have to really, really watch myself for sure. But I want them to know exactly what it looks like. And some readers are like, I don't really care. They're just scrolling, go, oh, there's conversation now. Okay. Like, I don't want to lose the reader. So I always have to remind myself, it's not about me. It's what is the reader, what is important for the reader to know, and then let them use their imagination, but it is hard. I do love to describe everything for sure.
That's great. No, because you know to go back and double check and maybe cut a little bit. That's good.
Yeah.
We have a lot of aspiring writers in our audience, so it's great for them to hear the processes that authors go through. Can you describe your path to publication? How you got started?
Yeah. So I took a writer's class at a community center, and it was being taught by an editor, and she gave us all her card at the end and said, hey, if you have a manuscript that you want me to look at, by all means, hire me. And after stressing over it for entirely too long, I was just like, just do it. I just got to do it. I have to know, right, if I even have a chance. So I sent to her this monster novel. It was like 400, 500 pages long, and she was very gracious, and she worked with me to kind of cut it back and to refine it. And she said, yeah, no, you definitely have talent. It's going to be a lot of work though. She said, to try and get published nowadays, but she says, keep at it, you can do it. And that was all the validation I needed. By golly, I was just like, I can do it. I'm going to do it. So I was on writers forums. I was doing Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it now. I was doing Pitch Madness for a long time, where basically, you just, was it 200 characters or less? You pitch your book, and there's participating publishers and agents there. So I did that a lot. And then I was, blogging. I was trying to create a social media presence, and doing a newsletter, and then of course writing, learning everything I possibly could. and then reading too to get inspiration. But in the end, somebody, Turgar Publishing, found me on through Pitch Madness. So I always recommend that to people if they're asking, like, how do I get in? I'm like, Pitch Madness, because that helped me a lot.
That's great. I don't know that I had spoken with anyone who found success that way. So that's fun to hear. I'm glad that worked for you. Many paths.
Yeah.
What does a typical writing day look like for you? What's your writing process?
Oh, it's so scattered. Now I have 3 littles, 4, 3, and 1.
That'll do it. Yeah.
So if I have, lately we've implemented a system where mommy gets 1 hour a day, and I close my door and you leave me alone for 1 hour, and daddy's in charge, and I will write as much as I can in that 1 hour. And if I get an idea in the middle of dinner, I have my phone. I'm like, I have Google Docs on my phone, so I can just like write it out real quick, and then I'll add it to the rest of the document later. Or if we're traveling. When I was nursing, that was so great. I'd have my phone there and I'd be writing scenes out on my phone while I was nursing, and just little bits at a time, just adding it here and there and slowly.
I wrote way back then like that too. Oh my gosh, I'm hearing so many familiar things. I'm way past that now, but I've been writing. I was writing back then too. So
me too.
Interesting.
Yes.
And speaking of children, you would be very popular with our boys, I think, because I got this from your website too. You watch anime and play video games next to your gamer husband, who we now know is also your research victim, or
Oh yeah. I rope him into my madness. Yes.
Do you have a favorite game or anime or what?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so right now we are really into we're waiting for Black Clover's new season to come out, waiting on bated breath because our favorite character got kidnapped, and we're like, no, what's gonna happen next? We are working our way through Blue Exorcist and Jujutsu Kaisen, and we got quite a few that we're doing right now. We're on a kick, we're on an anime kick. And then as game wise, we do some PlayStation, but we also do some Switch. So there's a bit there. I'm always going to be for Super Smash because that's what I grew up on. That's nostalgic for me. But we've done Skyrim, we've done Dragon Age, we've done Mass Effect, we've done a bit of everything. We found this game called It Takes Two, which literally you need 2 players to play. Like
I've done that with my son Ralph. Yeah, I know it well.
Yeah. So we're trying to play that. It's been a little tricky lately to find time to do that, but we're trying so hard to stick with it. Because
in my case, I mostly just sat there and Ralph told me what to do, and then I
nice. But hey, you're bonding. That's awesome. Good for you.
Right.
Did you watch Amazon's Fallout? Did you watch that, or did you ever play?
No, not yet. It's funny. That's my husband's like nostalgia for him too, is Fallout. So he's very like cautious. He's like, I don't know if I want to start it because if they ruin it, I'm just gonna be so mad. So like he's kind of like waiting on that. But I've heard some good things, so we might end up.
I enjoyed it, but I'm video game adjacent, so I have awareness of it and know what the idea of it is, but I didn't ever actually play it. But I've heard from people who played it that said they enjoyed it too.
So. Yeah. So
I would understand that he doesn't want it ruined for him. Yeah.
Well, one last question, Becca. Let's talk about the days ahead. I mean, obviously, the most important thing in your future is WriterCon, but beyond that, what are you working on now or next? What's coming next?
Event-wise, I'm doing the local Comic-Con. It's called Fan Fusion. That's Memorial Day weekend. I'm just going to be signing books and selling books and trying to talk to as many people as possible. Book-wise, I'm working on the sequel or the last book in that series, hopefully. Here's hoping for Chosen by the Masters. I had to kind of step back from writing because I've been doing a lot more of, I'm trying to do more speaker engagements, trying to engage more with other writers. I did some local library events too to try and meet more local authors. But I'm coming out in a magazine called Successfully that's coming out in a couple of weeks here. We're really excited about that. Just trying to get my name out there more because I got quite a few books on the shelf already. So I met with a marketing consultant, and that was the first thing she said. She says, I think you can take a break from writing for a little bit and just focus on promotion and marketing and stuff because you need to get your face out there. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
She was right. Well, can't wait to see you at WriterCon this fall. In the meantime, thanks for being on the podcast. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Parting words. Of course, we already mentioned the WriterCon retreat, which is coming up in July. That's July 17th through 21 at Canebrake, not far from Tulsa. And also, don't forget the WriterCon conference, because Becca will be there and Lara and I will be there, and about 50 other speakers and about 70 different sessions over the course of 3 days. It's a unlimited pitching contest, chances to get author photos taken, manuscript reviews, one-on-one with a person of your choice, consultations. What am I forgetting, Lara?
You're forgetting to mention the unbelievably low price that someone can join us for if they act quickly before May 31st.
Right.
Early bird price for a basic package is $299
For 3 days of programs.
for 3 days of instruction. I'm
3
telling
days.
you, 3 full days of
3
instruction.
days.
Yeah.
Not one, not two.
I go to a lot of conferences. How many days was it, Jesse?
Not one, not two, but 3.
Technically, it's 4, but the 4th day are the
Not
master
one,
classes.
not 2, not even 3. 4 full days.
Look, I have attended a lot of retreats and conferences myself, and I've never seen one at this price. I almost always have to pay more, and I'm not going to be ugly about them, but the quality of hours is just so high. I know that I'm not objective when it comes to this, but I truly do believe our quality is much better. I learn things every year at our conference, every year. And I have sometimes been to other events where I walked away and thought, didn't really learn anything. And that's frustrating to me. So the value for what you're spending is something to consider.
Well, great. And if you want to learn about the retreat or the conference or any of the other things we do at WriterCon, go to the website. It's writercon.com. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And hey, remember, keep writing. You cannot fail if you refuse to quit. See you next time.